I've spent over $150,000 on crazy biohacks, medical tests, crazy supplements, and expensive treatments. And I've spent thousands of hours working one-to-one with online entrepreneurs, executives, and sales professionals to help them do one thing: maximize their mental performance so they can work better and make more money. And you can see all about that if you go to the Pure Focus testimonials here, or even my personal channel, as you can see here. After analyzing how all of those 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and sales professionals work, and specifically around sales performance, I've concluded that there is something called the sales performance pyramid, which are the things that are behind your sales performance or your team's sales performance that affect how much money you close and how much money you make with your business, or how much money your sales team closes every day, every month, every week. So we start with the bottom of the pyramid, which is the most important thing, which is the sales skills. Then we go to the pay structure. How are you paying your closers, the commission structure and the pay structure. Then how you lead them, your leadership skills. And then the main part of this video that we're going to talk about is their mental performance. I'm going to show you how this mental performance variable is heavily impacting your sales performance and your closing rate and everything that goes behind the sale. But I'm also going to show you how to maximize your mental performance, or at least how to improve it after watching this video. And the 3 main variables that are behind the mental performance, so you can copy me and do better in your sales calls and perform better in your day-to-day life. Now, think about your sales performance as a gun. So we have this machine gun right here, which represents sales skills, your pay structure, and your leadership. Now, the thing that will determine whether you're going to fire with this 9mm caliber or the 45mm cartridge is your level of execution. And what do I mean by that? Let's say you have phenomenal sales skills. Let's say you're getting paid well. Let's say you have a CEO which is a great leader. That means that you should perform well in sales because you have the skill set to be able to deliver on your sales calls and close deals. However, the thing that will determine how you articulate yourself, your energy levels, and your focus and your delivery, how you conduct the sales call, apart the tangible, apart the fixed variables, your sales skills, all the things that we saw before, is your mental performance. And so let's say you are a 10 out of 10 in this area here, but in this area, you're like a 5 out of 10. And by the way, after working with all those people that we've worked so far, making crazy amounts of money and helping them add millions of dollars, what we've found is that most of them, if we were to rank levels of output, levels of mental performance, productivity, energy, focus, and mental clarity from a scale of 1 to 10, we've seen that the average tends to be around 4 to 6. So if we average out, it's a 5. In that case, it's going to be a 9mm caliber bullet here, which is not bad because it's going to do enough volume. It's going to fire enough time so that it can do some damage. So it will do some serious damage if fired enough, but it's not going to do as much damage per impact, which means each shot will have a drastic difference in impact. This bullet here will have significantly less impact than this here, because this is bigger, this is sharper, this is cleaner, and this is more new. So let's say, for example, you are a 10 out of 10 here, and at the same time you're a 9 or a 10 out of 10 here in mental performance. You have a great weapon, but you also have a very sharp caliber, very sharp bullet to fire with. This is your mental performance, and this is how it affects your sales skills or your sales performance more specifically. And to show you a different example, let's say this here is a sales mental performance equation that I've made. Let's say the things that go behind your sales performance is things like your offer, your sales skills, and your lead quality, things that are fixed variables that most of the teams tend to focus on. So let's say the quality of your offer is, let's make things realistic, and let's say it's 8 out of 10. Let's say your sales skills are an 8 out of 10 as well, and the lead quality is a 7 out of 10. You're realistically going to be closing around 30%. Maybe more, maybe less, who knows? But it's usually average industry standards. Now, then we have something which is called the performance level, which is what I showed here. the bullet and the gun equation, which is in reality, it's a score, it's a multiplier. Because as you see here, the thing that will determine how much impact you will make in your calls, how sharp and clean and big your bullets are, is going to be your mental performance. And the thing that will affect your mental performance is your energy levels, your mental clarity, and your focus. So let's say, again, let's go to the average, and let's say 5 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 5 out of 10. This means that you're optimized, like you're literally closing at 29% because your performance level is 1x. Okay, and let's say that we keep those variables the exact same. So let's say we keep the gun the exact same. We don't change anything about your gun, your machine gun. The only thing that we change is instead of using this ammunition, we switch to this. Let's see how this translates into the numbers. Let's say we take your energy levels from a 5 to an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. We take the mental clarity from a 5 to a 9, and your focus from a 5 to a 9. We can see that the performance level went from 1 to 2.2. So it's like a multiplier. And what happened is your closing rate went from 29% to 63%. And why? Because you kept your sales knowledge, your lead quality, and your offer the exact same, but those variables here, you added 4 extra points to each one of them. And so I'm saying this here because energy levels, mental clarity, and focus, it's much easier to go from a 5 to a 9 than it is from your offer to go from a 5 to a 9. Because in order to change your offer and to optimize your offer, there is a ton of work that needs to get done. In order to optimize your sales skills, there is a ton of more work that needs to get done. In order to optimize your lead quality, there is a huge feedback loop. Your ads, the metrics from the ads, ad spend, you need to probably get some more knowledge or some more mentorship or consulting on your ad creatives and all of that stuff that goes from the sales side. So it's much more complicated to optimize the offer if you already have a good offer than what it is to optimize your mental performance. And the impact that it's going to have on your ammunition is going to be insane. And we've seen that with live feedback and data. So let's now walk through how do you actually optimize this peak of the pyramid to optimize your sales performance and to optimize your closing rate. We've found that there are 3 main components. The first one is something called circadian clock. And the circadian clock is a structure inside your brain. You probably have heard of it before in YouTube videos. If you watch a lot of Andrew Huberman, you probably know what circadian rhythm or circadian clock is. It's a structure we all have inside our brains that controls the production of hormones, neurochemicals, your sleep and wake cycle, your energy levels in the morning versus your energy levels at night. So what we want to do is to optimize the circadian clock so we have predictable levels of performance, productivity, and focus at specific parts of the day depending on our calendar. So there are 3 variables to optimize your circadian clock: sleep quality, meal times, and movement. So to optimize sleep quality, what you will want to have your closers do, or yourself even, is those are the big needle movers. Go to bed and wake up at the same times for 80% of the time. Upon waking up, you want to replenish electrolytes. So you want to drink a cup of water or 1 liter of water with Himalayan salt or Celtic sea salt or electrolytes or something like Element to replenish your electrolytes. Again, your neurons require sodium, potassium, and magnesium in order to send electrical signals and communicate. So in order for your brain to work properly after 8 to 10 hours of hibernation, you need hydration. And you don't just need water, you need something which is full in minerals. For example, mineral water with extra electrolytes. This is what I do. The next thing is going to be don't drink caffeine 10 hours before bed. Caffeine has a quarter life of about 10 to 12 hours. This means after 12 hours, if you drink about 100 to 200 milligrams of caffeine at 9 a.m., about 9 p.m., if you go to bed at 9 p.m., let's say, you're still going to have a quarter of that in your system. So about 25 to 50 milligrams of caffeine still in your system, impacting your brain and nervous system and sleep quality. Then, no meals 3 to 5 hours before bed. This is huge. This is called reverse intermittent fasting in my fashion. It's going to allow your heart rate and your digestion to completely clear so that when you go to bed, you allocate 100% of your resources to sleep and recovery. You're going to allow your heart rate to go down enough for you to have more restful and deep sleep. And the other most important thing, which is the exact opposite to this, Around 2 to 3 hours before bed, you want to ideally replace all of your bright overhead lights with below eye level firelight colors to stimulate melatonin production and to trigger the rest and digest response from your nervous system. So if you do all those 5 things here, those are the basic best practices to improve your sleep and circadian clock. Then the things that are around your circadian clock, it's not only about sleep, but it's also about your meal times. So eating your meal times at the same time for 80% of the time is paramount, because it's not only your sleep quality and sleep wake cycle that is affected from your circadian clock, or that controls your circadian clock. Your circadian clock controls the function and the activity of all of your organs, including your gut motility, including your stomach, including your digestive tract. So eating your meals at the same time is going to allow you to digest better and maintain more energy and clarity throughout the day. In the first thing in the morning, you want to, if you're training first thing in the morning, like I said here, you want to eat the first meal afterwards. So instead of fasting until like the afternoon, you want to eat your first meal after training to kickstart recovery and to not be foggy and tired. And then you want to fast for the last 3 to 5 hours of the day. So do that, like flip it on its head and do reverse intermittent fasting. This is going to allow to have enough fasted hours in the day for cellular detoxification and autophagy, but also optimal sleep quality. The next thing is movement. So you want to exercise first thing in the morning. I don't care about bodybuilding exercise type of workouts. If your team loves, if they have a specific physique composition goal, then you want to place that in the morning, of course. But it's not only about the bodybuilding type workouts. You can even do like 20 minutes of jogging, brisk walk, or jump rope. It doesn't really matter. You want to get your heart rate up first thing in the morning. The more active you stay throughout the day, the more adenosine you will produce. Adenosine is the tiredness chemical we all have in our brains, which is responsible for making us feel ready to go to bed, and it essentially sends the signal of the need for sleep. The longer you stay awake for and the more stuff you do, the more adenosine we get accumulated in our brains, which is good for deep sleep. And again, you want to limit movement and exercise in the last 2 to 4 hours of the day. So you want to stay active throughout the day, but you don't want to, let's say, pack all of your activity in the last couple hours before bed, because that is going to stimulate and stress your nervous system, which is going to bleed into your sleep quality. So optimizing those 3 variables here, sleep quality, meal times, and movement, is going to allow you to optimize your circadian clock, which is going to allow your body to predict what time you should produce specific hormones and chemicals for you to perform at your best capability throughout the day. Now let's go to the second thing. So the second thing is something called glucose metabolism. You see, when you eat your meals, your body breaks some proteins and mostly carbs down to blood sugar. It's called blood sugar because it's sugar that is broken down into your bloodstream, blood glucose, otherwise known. Now, blood sugar or blood glucose, whatever it's called, if you can't manage it properly, it's going to, number one, cause long-term metabolic disease, diabetes, and obesity, and also cause you to have an impaired cognitive performance and brain fog and feel tired after your meals. The first thing that we have to do to manipulate that and optimize that is pay attention to your meal structure. So ideally, you want to eat your salads first to get enough fiber before the actual meal. And this is because fiber slows down the absorption of carbs into your bloodstream after they get broken down to glucose. And as a result of that, you get a far more stable blood sugar increase in your bloodstream, as opposed to having a big spike and then a big drop, which causes long-term health issues like metabolic disease and obesity and diabetes, as well as energy crashes after the meals. After this, you want to eat your protein first. Protein is going to be the most satiating part of your meal and is going to blunt your cravings for afterwards and prevent you from overeating. And you want to eat your carbs last, after the fiber and after the proteins. For your big meals, take 5 to 15 grams of psyllium husk 20 to 30 minutes before the meal. This is a supplement, essentially a seed that is full of fiber. And of course, you need to drink it fast, consume it fast, because it turns into a gel-like substance. and it expands, absorbs water and expands into your digestive tract, into your stomach. And as a result, it slows down the digestion of carbs and proteins. And as a result of that, you have a far greater metabolic health as a result of your blood sugar not spiking. And further optimize your metabolism and glucose glucose metabolism, you want to have apple cider vinegar, raw, unfiltered, on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning. The best practice for this is to use a metallic straw straight into your mouth, because it corrodes the enamel and you will end up damaging your teeth. And this will essentially sensitize your insulin. You will increase your insulin sensitivity so that when you eat a meal, your body, your cells can sense the insulin rising, and as a result of that, optimize the blood sugar levels after eating, which is going to allow you to have far more energy after your meals. Now, the second thing that you want to do for yourself or either your sales team in terms of principles for peak performance, you want to implement some sort of time-restricted eating protocol, and you want this to be congruent with this. So, as I said here, you want to fast. You want to do a time-restricted eating window, but you don't want to do that for the first part of the day. Ideally, what's best here is reverse intermittent fasting for optimal sleep quality, and so implementing that will allow your blood sugar level to drop and your insulin sensitivity to increase. And as a result of that, you improve your glucose metabolism or your glucose management. And then obviously, super important, optimal sleep. Even if you have a couple of days of sleeping less than 6 hours, so let's say 4 days in a row, 3 to 4 days in a row, if you're sleeping less than 6 hours, about 4 to 5 hours, and you go to take your blood work the next day after those 4 days, your blood sugar levels are going to be so disrupted that your doctor is going to classify you as a pre-diabetic and probably going to have tremendous changes into your behavior, into your lifestyle routine and diet as a result of that. So this is just to show you how important optimal sleep is for glucose metabolism. Daily exercise is going to lead to you build muscle. So here we're talking mostly about strength training as well, because this builds muscle. Muscle builds metabolic health. So if you build more muscle is going to require more glucose as fuel. And as a result of that, you're going to have better glucose regulation because you're going to get more sensitive to insulin, which is just the signal your body sends once it senses your blood sugar levels that are, once your body senses your blood sugar levels to go higher, then it signals insulin to increase, which then signals your blood sugar levels to go down. I hope this wasn't very complicated, but it's actually not that complicated. And this helps you maintain high energy levels after eating, as well as optimal longevity and health. The next thing to be able to optimize your glucose metabolism, the next behavior to do that, is going for a post-meal walk. 10 to 20 minutes is all it needs. You are going to use your muscles for walking after the meal. As a result of that, those muscles are going to soak up that glucose and the spike is going to be diminished. And as a result of that, better health and better glucose metabolism and better and more stable energy levels after meals. And in the case that you can't go for post-meal walks, or just simply keep your energy levels higher, is acquiring something called a walking pad. This is like a small treadmill just for walking that you can put below your desk. So you have a standing desk, and below you have a walking pad that you can actually use in between your calls while you're taking team meetings. So your closers don't have to stay seated. If they're on the phone with leads, not actually with camera on, because that's going to be unprofessional. When they're talking to leads, and you can see here, difference in brain after 20-minute walk, you can see that there's an image here, pretty much how the impact of after 20 minutes of walking to your brain. And this happens because when you go for a walk, your brain gets more oxygen because there is an increased blood flow to the brain. So by you staying active throughout the day, and more importantly, walking while you're taking your meetings, again, only audio, So if your closers are calling leads on the phone, walking on the walking pad while doing those calls is going to help tremendously with mental clarity, creativity, and precision and sharpness. And you might have noticed this for yourself if you're on the phone with somebody and walking around the house back and forth. This helps you stay sharp and clear and focused, because it helps send more blood to your brain, and essentially your brain gets more nutrients and oxygen, and it clears and makes you feel more energized and focused. So the next thing that we have to manage and optimize is dopamine management. Dopamine is the number one chemical for drive, pursuit, motivation, and productivity, if used correctly. The two main factors of dopamine management is the reward system and the pain-pleasure balance. For the reward system, it's very important that you use something called RIRT. This is a strategy that casinos have used for centuries, since ancient Rome, to essentially exploit your intimate dopamine mechanisms to take your money. And it's something mentioned many times by Professor Andrew Huberman, and it's the holy grail of dopamine management for success. The way it works is that when you achieve a milestone and when you celebrate that milestone, then your brain, what kind of happens inside your brain through neuroplasticity is your brain associates the win with the feeling of pleasure. And so it takes all the motivation and drive from the pursuit, from actually the effort required to win and to get the feeling of pleasure. So as a result, you kind of like every time after you have a big win, the pursuit, like the continuous work and persistent action after the win becomes really hard, and you get a crash feeling afterwards, essentially. For example, I'm not sure if this has happened to you. It definitely has happened to me, where I get a big win, I celebrate that win, like for example, with a trip, with a dinner, and then the next day, the next week is very hard to get back into the flow. You counteract this, or you prevent it from the the random intermittent reward timing, where you actually achieve the goal or the milestone, but you don't celebrate it. You celebrate wins randomly. And a good hack here to implement is that to have somebody else or a machine or a software decide when you're going to celebrate your wins or not. That way, you essentially rewire your brain to connect, to associate the effort with the win feeling, instead of the actual win itself with the pleasure feeling. So you trick your brain to associate the effort required to win with the feeling of pleasure itself. And then sharing your goals or wins, and more particularly your goals, sharing them with other people releases a level of dopamine that is equal to the amount of dopamine that would have been released if you were to actually achieve the goal itself. You want to approach sharing your goals with a more stoic fashion, in a way that you're really silent about, you're working in silence kind of vibe, and you're not really sharing a lot of the stuff that you're planning to do to manage your dopamine better and stay more productive and sharp and focused. And the next part is the pain-pleasure balance. You see, there's something in your brain that regulates the dopamine system in a way that when you experience pleasure, so let's say the drug addict. Let me show you an example here. When, let's say, the unhealthy dopamine, the cheap dopamine, you have pleasure, ice cream, TV, and then you have a spike, and then afterwards you have a drop below baseline. Because this is the pain-pleasure balance. The pain-pleasure balance works, the way it works is that when you experience pleasure first, there is like a scale inside your brain that needs to be regulated at all times. And so when you experience a 10 out of 10 amount of pleasure, you will afterwards experience a 10 out of 10 amount of pain, so that the scale can essentially rebalance. When you experience a 10 out of 10 pain in the beginning, in a form of exercise, there's another form of dopamine management other people do, which is called the bed of nails, which induces a ton of pain, and afterwards you have a ton of endorphin spikes and you feel good and you have the dopamine surge. So that kind of pain, or cold plunges, or fasting, or any form of pain you can go through in the beginning of actually pursuing something which is hard, this is pain. And after you go through this pain, the pain-pleasure balance will kick in, the pain-pleasure scale, and you will go through the equal amount of pleasure. So instead of front-loading the pleasure to go through pain afterwards and have a life that sucks, or celebrate that win, and then activate the pain-pleasure balance to get you through a big pain and drop below baseline of dopamine, you actually optimize that pain-pleasure balance to keep your dopamine baseline high, and as a result of that, be more sharp, more creative, in a better mood, keep your energy levels consistent and high, and be driven to pick up the phone and do work all the time. And the best practices that we've found to work to optimize creativity, productivity, motivation levels as a result of the pain-pleasure balance is the following. No phone for the first hour of the day. Your brain is in the most optimal state for memory consolidation and mood stabilization for that first hour when you wake up. It's in the most plastic form of the day. And essentially checking your phone first thing in the morning dictates how the rest of your day, how productive or distractive the rest of the day should be based on your dopamine. No social media, music, or phone on work breaks while you're eating your meals or in the gym. You might see here the main takeaway that you get from this this box, is that it seems very boring. And this is the whole point of managing your dopamine. You want to make every part of your day as boring as possible, especially surrounding your work blocks. So if your team works from 8 a.m. until 5 or 4 p.m., you want to make those hours surrounding those blocks. So let's say before that, during that, and after that, you don't really care. But before and during, you want to keep the day as boring and bland as possible. So phone in grayscale is going to allow your phone to be much less interesting to your brain, and as a result of that, less distractive and more boring, and limit stimulant use to 1 to 3 days a week max. As a result of that, your dopamine baseline will be much higher. You will have less peaks and troughs and more consistent productivity, creativity, and motivation. Now, this sounds quite simple, and if you implement that, it will allow you to, or it will allow your team to perform much higher levels. But there is a specific protocol I've created for sales teams to help you optimize your sales team's mental performance so they can maximize their closing rate and work output without getting better leads or better sales training, simply by optimizing their sales metrics by integrating them with their health metrics. And to show you how it works and how we can help you with this, or even copy it yourself and do it yourself if you want to, I've filmed this video here, which you can watch by clicking on the screen now. It's going to show you step by step how it works, as well as how you can integrate it for your own sales team for yourself if you want to. Watch it, and I'll see you there.